Okay, so thank you for modeling the Carson Elementary Data Protocol with me. This is our first time doing this, so look forward to it. Since this is our first time going through data together, I'm going to skip through the narrate, goals, and affirm because we're not looking at previous data. This is our first time. So we're going to go directly into the analyzing the exemplars. But I first wanted to start with the standards that with this specific assignment that you were assessing. What standards were you focusing on?
So really a couple different standards. Our L3.1 asks students to answer questions to demonstrate understanding of a text referring explicitly to the text, and this is a huge push in third grade, really making sure they have that evidence from the text that they're using to support their opinions or their thinking. And then also thinking about the writing standard, the opinion writing standard, and getting them to state an opinion and to support it with relevant reasons and to create an organizational structure that supports that.
Okay, so you're pairing both citing evidence with opinion. So essentially they're needing to support their point of view with textual evidence. So that's how you're combining both standards.
Exactly.
Okay, well let's look specifically at your teacher exemplar and the task that they were asked to do. So what were they asked to do within this specific task?
Right. They were asked, we had just finished reading The Tiger Rising, so I wanted a question to kind of deepen their thinking and their opinion of the text as a whole. So it said, would you recommend The Tiger Rising to a friend? Explain your opinion in complete paragraph structure using at least 2 reasons and support your thinking with specific evidence. And I gave them a prompt to use the PACE format to help. That's a structure that I've introduced recently that will be a year-long expectation.
Okay, so with this, they needed to provide their opinion, but with 2 reasons. With each reason, were you looking for evidence to pair with that reason?
Yes.
Okay, so do you want to talk through your exemplar and the specific pieces that you looked for within your student work?
Yeah, so with the exemplar, I have a topic sentence that starts out with just the main idea. Yes, I would recommend it, or no, I wouldn't. And I've been finding that a lot of students will put in a reason into their topic sentence.
Okay.
So that's definitely a next step for me. So then after my topic sentence, I just highlighted here 2 different reasons.
Okay.
And then as you had mentioned, for each reason, I would expect at least 1 piece of evidence to support that. And since this was a long chapter book, and since it's at the beginning of the year, I didn't really expect direct quotations, but just making sure that at least they were referring back to the text.
Okay.
With characters' names or vocabulary. And then I highlighted the evidence-based terms in yellow here that they can use for referring back to the text.
Okay.
And then finally I closed with this evidence shows, and I kind of restated what my topic sentence said.
Okay, so for a student to be able to score as proficient or meeting expectations, they would need a topic sentence stating their opinion within the topic sentence, 2 reasons in the paragraph with evidence for each reason, and then also a concluding statement that connects the evidence to the topic sentence. Okay, great. So let's dig into the student work. And sort them into your met expectations, if there was any exceeding, your almost meeting, and then you're not meeting.
Okay. Yeah, I really only had a couple students who met expectations.
Okay.
And so I wrote their scores down here. This is the rubric I used. I tried to make it pretty kid-friendly.
Okay.
So Marin here, do you want me to read it out loud or just kind of go through the sorting?
Just kind of tell me about this
one. Marin really understood the point of, she had the topic sentence, she gave 2 different reasons and had 2 different examples from the text.
Okay.
To support it. So I'll really work with her on what does a 4 look like for the next step.
So there were 3 students that are meeting that then you'll work on exceeding.
Exactly.
Let's dig into the students that were not meeting so that we make sure that we spend a lot of time talking about how to get them to where they need to be.
So Graham is an example of, he had a really solid start. He just gave 1 reason, not 2. So that would be a pretty simple next step for him, like continue that structure. So Eli is one that is
partially meeting.
Okay. It's okay if you take a minute to sort.
Okay. So maybe these are the ones that they're on the right track, but they gave, just one reason,
Okay.
but at least they have like the concept down. These two girls, I noticed they had really deep ideas, but the way that they explained their thinking in their paragraphs just didn't quite make sense to the reader. I could kind of, just
Okay.
because I'm a teacher, I knew what they were trying to say, but I think I could definitely pull them back in a small group and
Okay.
talk about that. Okay, so I used to work on evidence. This is gonna be, kind of my highest need pile.
Okay. Nice to see some of the groups that are already coming out of this. So this one looks like they just need help with adding additional evidence.
Yep, and
Yep.
then they really just need help with kind of clarifying their ideas, almost
Yep.
the organizational structure of it.
Okay.
And this is my pile of
How to push
threes
down.
here.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So it looks like you have a pretty large group right here. So these are the students that need help with additional evidence, correct?
Mhm.
1, 2, 3. Okay, so almost, I mean, there's 12 students here, so almost half your class, not quite. If you're thinking through this work, what do you think the misunderstanding was between that? What might be the cause of having only one piece of evidence versus two?
Well, I think the prompt itself was a little tricky, and if I could go back in time, I might have asked for, provide one reason with evidence, because I think having two different reasons with evidence threw them off a little bit. So
Okay.
they got into some reasons, but kind of forgetting then about the support that they needed for that. So I think that would be one root cause. Another root cause, as I mentioned, is just having that big of a text to really go back to and refer to something I could tell we're trying to, but it wasn't explicit enough in the text.
Okay. So when you're planning your reteach specifically for this group, what do you think your instructional moves will be in order to have them be able to write two pieces of evidence or two reasons, and also take that text and find where can I find that evidence, since it's such a large text?
Yeah, so one idea I had was to use kind of this new method I had never heard of called the catch and release.
Okay.
And so what that would look like is just a little more hand holding before I release responsibility.
Okay.
So I would model, okay, what would my topic sentence look like? So that's the catch. Then
Okay.
the release is they're gonna go back and write down their topic sentence. So I really envision them revising these.
Okay.
Using my example, so one step at a
Okay.
time. So now I'm gonna show you what the P looks like, you do it. Now I'm gonna
Great.
come back together, what would my first reason look like, now you do it.
Okay.
And then I also think providing some of those evidence-based terms, I think just having that language posted in the classroom will be a really good support. Just using terms like for example, or in the story, the text states.
Okay. So for this group, your plan is to be able to do the catch and release, and then start the topic sentence and release them to revise their own work, and then also to provide some of those sentence stem pieces specific for how to put their evidence within.
Exactly.
Great. Okay, so now let's take a look at this group here and talk about what you saw within this group.
So this group will definitely benefit greatly from that catch and release modeling as well. I think they're just gonna need multiple exposures and then additional support in small groups is what I'm seeing.
Okay.
A couple of these students, I think, just kind of had a misconception about what does it mean to recommend a book to a friend. I had a student who said, oh, I usually don't talk about books with my friends, so therefore I wouldn't. So,
Oh, okay.
just having a conversation about what does that mean to recommend a friend? Why would we recommend a book? What are some
Okay.
things we would talk about?
Okay.
So again, I think more modeling for this group and more practice. So really
Okay.
having more support in the small groups.
Okay. So, essentially reteaching the lesson with this group, but then pulling this group back to the small table for additional support while they're sent to independently. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Let's move into the next group.
Okay, so these were a few students who had a really solid paragraph, but as I mentioned before, their ideas were pretty deep, but they weren't clear to the reader. So I think even having one-on-one conferences with them, to really give them the opportunity to explain to me what was it that you were trying to say, how can we make that more clear for the reader.
Okay. So these pieces are really falling around the organizational structure of it. Is there anything that you'll be reteaching within these groups that this group would benefit from, or is this a separate group?
I still think these students had great ideas, but the organization, such as the evidence-based terms, were missing in these pieces too.
Okay.
So I think that will help them.
And then you're going to be talking about the evidence-based terms with this group as well. And the reason I'm asking is because I'm seeing a trend here that might be a whole class reteach, then followed by your scaffold of small group or one-on-one.
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay. And then your final group, these are your got it and you want to extend their work. So with these three examples, they had the topic sentence, 2 pieces of evidence, and the conclusion sentence that connected both. So what are you thinking as an extension for them?
Well, I think first for me, I need to really take time to create a 4 exemplar.
Okay.
What might that look like? And then I think having a conversation with these students, what might this look like to, have an in-depth answer and application that goes beyond. So really thinking about that habit of mind of applying what we learn, not just to our learning in the book, but outside of school or in our lives beyond just the tiger rising.
Okay.
So I think having a deep conversation about that, and then once I create my 4 exemplar, I think I'll have a better idea of what that could look like. I think that's one of the most challenging parts of this is going above and beyond and really what that to quantify it.
I'd be curious to see too what the 4th grade standards for those same standards you were looking at, what the 4th grade standards look like too. Because maybe that's a support that you can pull in as well to create that 4th exemplar. So I'm going to just summarize what we found within this so that you're able to fill out your reflection form, and then you can spend the remainder of the time adjusting your lesson plans. Okay? So for the majority of yours, you found that there were trends that need a full class reteach. And with that, you're gonna use the catch and release strategy to, for them to be able to revise, and then also to give them evidence-based terms so that they have the language in order to put evidence within theirs. And then with your exceeds group, you're going to create a 4 exemplar by putting in some of those real-world connections or personal connections, but then also possibly looking at the 4th grade standards to see where to take them next. Okay, great.
And that might be really looking for direct quotations from the text, I think could be a good
Direct
step for them.
quotations, yeah. Okay. Well, let's capture this within your data reflection Google form, and it'll send an email directly to you so that you can remember these steps. And then I think we've got quite a bit of time left for you to actually lesson plan.
Okay,
Okay, great.
thank you so much.
Yes.